Welcome to the Fantasy Throwdown Podcast, bringing you the latest updates from the world of sports, gambling, and pop culture. Because you can't have a show without hot takes or a Tiger King meme these days. Know what I'm saying? Now, with over 200 episodes and ready to get after it again, here's your host, Dwayne Callender.
Good evening, everyone. It is late night on the East Coast, Wednesday, heading into Thursday, but want to get this up because the Masters is here. Wish I could have gotten this recorded earlier, but, it is c'est la vie, as they say. But just the end of the golf season is upon us with the restart and everything else. I mean, obviously, the Masters comes much earlier in the year before the PGA Championship, but, with COVID and the pandemic and, obviously we got a whole lot more going on in the world, but, that's neither here nor there. So we're going to talk some golf tonight, and I'll give my thoughts on the slate itself and just the field itself, just to kind of condense it as to what I think is going to happen with the Masters this year. We've got weather involved with the rain for the Masters this year, but we know where the course is. It's Augusta National, the most famous golf course in the world. There's not a whole lot you can do to change the Masters, so the golfers are going to know this course. We're going to have some first-timers, but, everyone has been watching Augusta for so many years now. You've got a number of par fives, you got very long par fours. It's there's the amount of memorable holes to kind of talk through. Hole 12, probably the most famous par 3 golf course, like the most famous par 3 in the world with Hogan Bridge. So many golfers trip up at 12, even though it's a par 3. You've got number 10, which typically is the doomsday scenario for many a golfer, including Rory McIlroy. There are just a number of holes that folks are going to have their favorites on, and just what people are going to be looking at. It's going to be interesting. Every year brings something different to the tournament, and just the walk, and it's going to be eerie. I will say this without question. And obviously you're trying to be as careful as possible. Seeing the Masters played without spectators is gonna be insane. It is what it is. We gotta try to be safe, and with these record cases, everything makes sense. It's just so weird gonna be seeing this tournament without spectators. It's just, there's just no getting around it. Watching the Masters for the better part of 25 years, and even as I'm saying this, it's just like I've been watching the Masters as long as I've been watching Jeopardy as a kid, and thinking about Alex Trebek. I'm going on a tangent here, but it's just I've got so many memories of different events over the years that I've been privy to and watching, and it's just it's going to be a different experience for 2020, that's for certain. But let me get into what I'm talking about here, just so you guys have a kind of scale for what I'm going to be discussing. So in terms of the number of holes that you're gonna hear people talking about throughout the tournament itself, the hardest holes are going to be number 10, 11, and 4. That's pretty much going to be the hardest holes. I mean, there are other places to trip up as well at Augusta, don't get me wrong. But, those three are usually the most likely stumbling blocks for golfers. And, in terms of some of the easier holes that you got to nail if you really want to make up ground, it's going to be 15, 13, and 2. It's you just got to nail the par fives. It's just that simple. So the first par five is going to be hole number 2. But when you get a chance at a par five at Augusta, you have to get a good drive, and you've got to have good iron play, and you've got to be able to putt. There's just there's no getting around it. If you're gonna win the Masters, you're gonna need to be able to have a good game around the green. Either that, or you're gonna have to bomb the ball and have good iron play. It's like you got to be able to have distance. Like if you can't get tee the green, then you're gonna have to be an excellent iron play. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is a very straightforward approach to how things are going to go. And, for last year, and it's crazy to think about how much time has passed since Tiger won in 2019. But, even at Tiger's health declining with the back and everything else, and no longer being able to drive the ball at the same distance of being crushing it the way he used to, Tiger's short all-around game with irons in his short game, that's what was the difference. And, he won with, minus 13. But, realistically, if I kind of went back and, it's funny sometimes, you look back and kind of think about things you've done. I once had a research paper I did in college for an econometrics course. And for those of you who don't know what econometrics is, it is the mathematics of economics. So you're finding different ways of testing different theories and variables to see what makes what you can actually prove as a case. And, what I was trying to prove was just in terms of golf, what matters the most. And, back then, and I think it still kind of holds true today, in terms of winnings for golf tournaments, it ends up being driving distance and accuracy by and large. And then, even if you're not accurate with your driver, if you have strong iron play, that actually counts more towards the overall variables of being having positive correlation to your overall game. You can survive. You can survive not being accurate, but if you don't have great iron play to balance out a lack of driving distance, you're pretty much dead in the water. Putting, yes, putting can kill you from winning a golf tournament, but just being a great putter won't save you from the other aspects of major tournaments, and it just kind of bore itself out over the years. And if I had the ability to do remember how to do some of these regression tables again, I think the data would even bear out even more tilted today. So as I'm rambling on here, what's the point I'm getting at? The point I'm getting at is, with the weather slated for, as it's stated, with additional rain at Augusta, the greens are going to be wet, means the course is going to play longer. And by longer, I mean you're not going to get nearly as much rolling on the ball as it lands on the green. So, sometimes the ball may land and you're going to get more of a bouncing effect with the ball. It's just not going to be necessarily the case with the greens being wet. And while they have drainage systems and other measures at the golf course, the weather's the weather. It's just going to likely play longer. And so if it's playing longer, you got to be able to have guys that can get the ball down the course, folks that can try to get, if you can get a birdie on on like number 11, which is a par 4, but it's over 500 yards, it's the beginning of Amen Quarter. The toughest stretch of where you're going, because you're going from 11 to 12. And then and round it out with 13, which is the par 5. This is like kind of like where you're hitting the home stretch of the golf course for every round. So, like I said, I want to have guys that can drive the ball or are going to be excellent iron players. So, for me personally, you got to start at the top. I mean, my 3 favorites to win the tournament: Bryson DeChambeau, Dustin Johnson, and Jon Rahm. Clear cut, top 3 players to expect. That the Vegas books agree. Realistically, those are the best options of winning the tournament, and I don't think it's even close. Bryson is plus 750. DJ is next in line, plus 850. Rahm plus 1,000. And then you're rounding out with Rory, Justin Thomas at 1,200 each. Xander Schauffele is plus 1,600. Brooks Koepka plus 1,600. Brooks could be in that mix too if he was healthy. I still haven't seen enough from Brooks to be really positive about him. I'll talk about him a bit, but not necessarily looking in that direction. Patrick Cantlay plus 2,500. It could be interesting. There's nothing wrong with Cantlay. It's just, the top 3 are just, to me, are that much more positioned to be at the top of the leaderboard. Some of these other guys, I would not even be shocked to see them in the top 5. But to win it all, you're going to have to do a lot to beat Bryson, Dustin, and Rahm. Now, and I'll say this with the caveat. Bryson, while he's the overall favorite to win the tournament, in head-to-heads, if you're looking at the betting market, Bryson is actually the underdog versus Dustin Johnson, Rahm, and Rory, and JT. Why is that? If he's the overall favorite to win the tournament, why is he the underdog versus the other some of these other golfers? And I'll explain how the books did this. Basically, the expectation is that Bryson has the potential to absolutely destroy this golf course. There's a potential for Bryson and a pathway for Bryson to get there where he's going to be 18 under par, anywhere from 18 under par to 21, 22 under par. Like, he could easily destroy this golf course with the way he approaches the game. And what is his approach to the game? Basically, Bryson's all about the science of the game. How much extra distance can I get off the tee, and what can I do to lengthen every club to the golf course where I'm driving it with a bomb, I'm hitting it 350 plus yards. Whether I'm using a wedge as opposed to an iron, just try to get as much distance as humanly possible on all these longer holes, so that the way Bryson's approaching is that he's going to try to turn the par 5s into a par 4, the par 3s into the par 4s into par 3s, or even get there in 2 shots. Like, he's going to try some crazy stuff. There's no doubt. Now, there's a possibility that it spectacularly backfires and he misses the cut. Because the cut this year is the top 50 make it plus ties. So you got a golf tournament with 80 golfers. half the field's going to make the cut. And I should also say this for those of you who are on the uninitiated side. It's not the top golfers in the world that are qualifying for the Masters. Any past champion for the Masters will qualify as well. So you're going to see VJ is singing in there. You're going to see Freddie Couples in there. You're going to see Trevor. Actually, it looks like Trevor Immelman pulled out, but you're going to see some folks in there that you're kind of surprised at seeing playing in there, like Jose Maria Olazabal, Larry Mize, Sandy Lyle is still in there. And some legends of golf still playing in the Masters. Bernard Longer, like you're gonna be seeing some past champions in there. Again, it's a tradition where you see these past champions play in the modern game, and just the respect paid to some of these legends in the sport by the modern golfers. It's cool. They get to play alongside their idols. It's just one of the nice and unique things about the Masters. But with that all being said, I'm looking at this and I'm just kind of saying to myself, if I'm betting this where I'm just going to be looking straight at Bryson, DJ, Rahm, and then, I think the next guy that I would probably take a play on would be Tony Finau at plus 2,800. And again, the knock on Finau is Finau usually tends to play extremely well, and then, just when it comes to the final day, can't put it together. And I mean, there's no golf course with greater pressure on you than Augusta National on the heading into the final day. But the way I kind of look at it is that if Sergio Garcia can finally win a major and be the Masters, I gotta think Finau one of these days it's gonna happen. His game perfectly translates to Augusta. He's a bomber. He can putt. Like, he can do it all. It's just a matter of can he get it over the hump. So from a betting standpoint, I'll take a flyer on Tony Finau at 2,800. But my main plays are going to be JT. It's going to be Rahm, and it's going to be I'll have some exposure to JT, but it's going to be a lot of it's going to be Rahm, DJ, and Bryson. I just think that they're clear cut. That much better. I don't necessarily get the fascination with Rory this year because post restart, Rory just has not clicked. He had a baby like in the middle, like post pandemic, in the middle of the return from golf. People thought his game was coming back together post restart, but he still hasn't had any signature wins or anything of note where he's in like top three. It's like it's been very haphazard. Like he's been kind of in the mix, but not really in the mix. And I just don't really have room for Rory from a betting standpoint or a DFS standpoint because I just think there are better options to consider. So Rory, while I haven't X'd him out of my player pool, he's just not really a factor. So when it comes right down to it, when I'm putting together my overall breakdown for the Masters this year, I want the bomber. So I want a combination. If I'm putting together my DFS lineups for DraftKings and FanDuel, I really want to have exposure to Bryson, Rahm, or Dustin. It's just that simple. It's going to be a lot of concentration around those guys. And from an overall standpoint, the way I see my main lineup going, it's probably going to be on DraftKings. Dustin Johnson got mispriced on DraftKings. So I'll say that from the outset. Dustin Johnson had he didn't have a positive COVID test. he was at high risk because someone he was in close proximity to had a positive test. So no one knew if Dustin was going to be cleared. What was he going to be positive? Because if he tested positive, obviously he wasn't going to be in the Masters. There was a whole lot of angst about that, and so DraftKings kind of priced the angst in that there's a good chance Dustin Johnson may be scrambling at the last minute to qualify for the Masters by getting multiple negative tests, and you just don't know. And so they priced him at $10,000. When ideally from a DFS perspective, you're pricing guys closer in that price range to 10.5 or even 11,000 or more. So Dustin being at 10K, I mean, just kind of writes itself. When you factor Dustin in, like, he should be in your player pool regardless. So then the decision point comes down to, do I want Rahm or do I want Bryson? Rahm will run you 10.5, which again, not bad at all considering the potential win equity that he has. So you can't be complaining about price there. So it's either Rahm for me, or you play Bryson at 11.2. Justin Thomas at 10.7. Like I said, it's nothing wrong with Justin Thomas. It's just at that price point. Why am I playing Justin Thomas when I can play Rahm or DJ for far less and still be able to fit in Bryson? Playing Justin Thomas, folks want to be different and try to get off of ownership percentage. I don't think Bryson's going to be that high owned because I think people are going to be a little bit more apprehensive about playing Bryson at his price tag because of some of the lower price golfers you're going to need to fit in at that price point to get under the $50,000 cap. But I'm perfectly fine with it. So, with this particular build, I'll do it with Rahm first. So Rahm, Dustin Johnson. So obviously that accounts for $20,500. Next up, I'm going to take Finau at $8,800. I already told you guys how much I like Finau's overall game. And his price tag at $8,800, you don't even need him to win. You just need him to have a couple of good rounds of golf, be in the top 10, easily pays off value there. He's definitely going to have some birdie stretches as well. So I got no concerns about Finau at all from a pricing standpoint on DraftKings. And then, it comes down to some of the golfers that you're going to have to get comfortably uncomfortable playing with. But I like Cameron Smith at 7,300. Good driving distance. Pretty good on the greens as well. So don't necessarily have any concerns about playing him just because he overall grades out pretty effectively in terms of what he's going to be able to do because, again, good on grass, and he's going to at least have some decent yardage to kind of carry through. So I think he's going to be particularly fine as a play. Another guy that, I'm also going to be having exposure to is Sebastian Munoz, who's been absolutely red hot this year with some of his finishes. I mean, he's got 6 top 10 finishes on the tour this year. And, one of the cheapest guys you can get in the field at 6,700. Munoz has just had a terrific run this year, in terms of what he's been able to do this year with, from his tee to green game. He's just one of the guys that I think should be very popular if he's, overall, from a selection standpoint. I expect Munoz to have ownership percentages in that mid-teen range, and with a field like the Masters, you're gonna get you're definitely going to get some popularity with these picks, but it kind of comes down to what you're going to be willing to play down a little bit lower than Munoz as well, because if you're fitting in Rom, DJ, or Bryson, you got to be able to play a couple of 6K guys. And my next pick would be Corey Connors. Corey Connors, not in terms of the aspect of his game you're worried about is more on the putting side, but elite iron player. From the statistical numbers, Connors should be one of the best plays on the entire slate. I don't necessarily get it when folks just run away from certain players because it could be construed as a liability just because there's some deficiencies in his game. He's got 2 years experience playing at Augusta. He knows the course. He's not really gonna be afraid to attack the course. He knows what to expect, and he's getting better every year. He's definitely something. I'm not gonna bet him to win the tournament, but at a 200-1 odds, like that's a pretty good payoff. But I don't think he's winning a tournament. But it's not the there's nothing that I'm going to be worried about. And Munoz being 150-1, again, nothing wrong with Munoz's game. These guys are going to be pretty good to round out your roster. And then, like I said, Cam Smith should be popular. He's got 3 straight cuts made at Augusta, and he did finish in the top 5 within the past 3 years. So I just think, overall, that's the way you should be building out your roster. I don't look at it from the standpoint of, you got favorites, and then you got folks that are going to be popular. You can't play it. It's like, no, it's like, this is about getting as much points as possible. And, however the chips may fall, they fall. But, you don't run away from a guy just because you think it might be a popular play, because popular plays, you're not going to see a 40% owned guy. You may see a guy in approach closer to 30, which I doubt this year just because there are a number of solid plays. I just think at the end of the day, you have to be prepared to make a move on some of these players and just take a stand. And that's where I kind of look at it. I like who I like. I don't have any concerns about playing them, and I'm just going to stick with it. But on the FanDuel side, it's going to change a little bit slightly because of the pricing. But I've got Dustin, I've got Rom, I got Connor still in there. But the salaries are going to be different. But on the FanDuel side, I'm going to be playing some Jason Kokrak, and again, it's the distance. He's getting good distance, and I'm playing Bubba. I'm not playing Bubba on DraftKings because Bubba's pricing on DraftKings, it's a little bit too rich for me to consider on DraftKings. And he's got to be popular on DraftKings. It's just they're good plays on DraftKings. I'm not saying Bubba's not a good play. It's just that there are more plays I'm gravitating towards, and like I said, sometimes you got to take stands, and you can't play everyone in order to maximize your win equity. So you got to make some decisions. So Bubba didn't make my cut on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, yeah, I do actually like where Bubba looks from a standpoint of from his efficiency at being able to get the ball moving. I think Bubba is definitely in play this week. I don't have any doubt playing Bubba pricing wise, it works out on FanDuel as opposed to DraftKings, but nothing that I'm necessarily going to be concerned about from an optimal standpoint. And Bubba's going to be popular on both sides, so without question. But I would much rather play him on FanDuel than trying to squeeze him in on DraftKings. I don't see much value in Bubba on DraftKings as opposed to what I can already do with a couple other plays. So that's where I kind of leave things off. It should be a very interesting tournament. Like I said, not having spectators, the pressure in the moment, I think it's going to be a little bit different. So I think it's going to take off some of the pressure for the lesser known guys to be able to execute, because you don't have to worry about the crowd. You don't have to worry about hearing the roar from other parts of the golf course because someone made a big putt. There's just going to be other factors that come into play now where it's more tied to the skill set of the player because they don't have to worry about the mental aspect of the golf game. So, that's where I will leave things off. I'll get this uploaded just so you guys can listen to this ahead of tee times in the morning, and we'll kind of go from there. But best of luck, everyone. Enjoy the Masters, and until next time, have a good one.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Throwdown Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all other major outlets.